All right, welcome back to the CoachIQ Podcast. My name is Mitchell Kirsch, and I'm here with pro trainer Justin Razooky from the Hoop House. How are you, Justin?
I'm amazing. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you for coming on. Appreciate you taking the time. Really excited for this convo because I think you have one of the most unique gyms maybe in the world.
Yeah, definitely. Small space, about actual actual gym space is probably close to 2,000 square feet, a little bit less, but we're able to train 200 players every single week. I've had some of the best high school players in the world come in here and train, and we've had groups where we have had like 7 to 8 pros in the gym at the same time, and space could obviously be a little bit troublesome for some people, but we make it work, man. We definitely make it work. Sometimes we have 12 to 14 kids in here at a time, and everything is fast paced. Everything goes super smoothly.
I love it. I want to dig into the specifics on that a little bit later, but I think most people listening, there's a good chance they've seen the gym on social media, right? We see the clips. Was it Mikey Williams as a high schooler getting up there, ripping the rims down?
That really kind of took off on the social media scene. Also during just overall COVID, when everybody else was closed down, we were able to open up the gym for a couple big YouTubers, a couple big celebrities, and we have a very iconic like mural. You can kind of see it like right over there. It's more colorful, obviously in the actual gym, but we have a pretty iconic mural to where everybody kind of is like, whoa, like that's amazing detail. So things like that.
Absolutely. No, that's definitely a showstopper. This is like the least important question, but out of curiosity, how'd you get that mural? Who'd you guys have make that mural?
Man, it was a local artist actually out here in San Diego. He would come in here at because we would end our workouts at like 10 or 11 sometimes, and he would come in here 11 and stay here overnight, and we'll come and like bring him food, and we had a big forklift, and he had this projector. He just like didn't want to be distracted. So I was like, all right, the only way to not be distracted is you got to come here almost overnight, and he ripped it out, and it's beautiful. It's honestly the greatest probably piece of art I've ever witnessed someone hand paint.
That's a beautiful story. And I feel like there's going to be this theme throughout of you guys going through and doing the dirty work day by day, showing up. So let's dive right into it. You started the Hoop House, but before that, was there a dream? Was there a vision? What were the years preceding to what you have now?
So my brother started coaching me because I started playing at the YMCA. That was his first ever job. He started coaching me. Then I went out to go play some AU basketball. And my first ever coach was actually Jordan Lawley. I don't know if you have heard of him.
But I worked for Jordan for about a year out in
J Law. That was actually my first ever AAU coach. So when I tell people that, they're like, what? No way. I'm like, yeah, like I remember he was fresh out of college, and every practice was a training session. You know, we're ripping through drills and no 3-man weaves. We're learning skills. So my brother Ryan got to really like learn and just learn the game of training and learn how to develop kids. And of course, he was helping me out. And then Jordan went on to go start his training business up in like Carmel Valley area in San Diego. And my brother just kind of had to slowly like kind of take over, started coaching teams at like 16 or 17, started training some of the teammates. And then once that organization kind of fell apart, he started just training while he was in high school, training while he was in college, and then ultimately had the opportunity to get this facility. Previous trainer was kind of selling it. I hopped in very quickly. When I was 16 and 17, I started helping him out with some classes. After my own high school practice, he actually, I was forced to run my first camp. I didn't know anything about training, and I had to go over to Mexico, where I do not speak the language at all, and run a camp with about 40 kids. Had the news pop out, had had the whole like city of Mexico City really pop out at this camp that I taught everything that I was taught. So like everything that J Law was taught. I don't know if you're familiar with like Gannon Baker, and like Devin Williams, 10,000 hours. But like I used to learn from all those guys, so I just like did a bunch of drills that they did, and that was really my first time really diving into the training space. Was like I was really thrown in the fire. Like I was sent to Mexico by myself as like a 15, 16-year-old kid with no idea how to speak the language, but like izquierda and derecha, which is left and right. And then that's literally it. And I was just kind of ran like a 3-day camp. And then after that, I kind of told my mom and my brother, I was like, I think I can do something here. And then started helping out Ryan, and we're here now. I mean, we have 3 facilities, and I think that I wouldn't like it any different than how it kind of panned out.
Absolutely. Just jumping right in, and
Yeah, jumping
you gotta
right in.
figure it out along the way. I think there are a lot of people out there, and I think there are the Gannon Bakers of the world made it possible for skills trainers to become an industry and a full-time job,
Absolutely.
and it's starting to grow. But I also think there's a difference between good trainers that they have it a part of what they do. They help players get better. Maybe some of them are basketball coaches, AAU coaches, or it's not their main thing. And then there are full on operators where being a skills trainer is the entire business and they operate. What do you see as the biggest difference between those two types of people? And how could one person potentially go from having skills be a part-time thing to a full-time thing like you do now?
But I think ultimately it's just about learning like the actual business and seeing like what your time was worth. So before I was training all these like Ryan would give me all like a bunch of like high level middle school kids and kind of show me like, all right, like here's what you're gonna do. Let's say the kid paid $500 for 10 sessions. Like I would keep 300 of it. You know what I mean? Just so I learn kind of a little bit about like money and just
Yep.
overall like how to value it and stuff like that. So he's like, all right, like I'm gonna do this for you. So I learned a little bit of what like the value of money was as far as like what my time was worth also. So I feel like just learning like the business side of things and knowing what your time is worth, like there's a lot of like TikTok and you know what I mean? Like I don't like to say it, but like Instagram trainers who are like only in it for like the pros and they go and trade so much of their time and don't get a dollar, just to kind of get in certain rooms and just say that they're with NBA guys or say that with pros, but they're really not like progressing because those pros aren't gonna do anything for them. They're just a cone or they're just a rebounder. So, as a professional, I mean, I'm not gonna give this guy all the flowers, you know what I mean? Versus like a businessman is gonna understand, okay, how do I scale this and how do I actually do a really good job at what I'm doing? Well, I was taught at very young, like, okay, get the sixth man on the AAU team, get him to be a starter. Now get him to be the best player. Now you have developed, every other parent has seen you develop this kid, and now you potentially have 12 to 15 more clients. All you have to do is just kind of network from there. So I would say I really loved the idea of being in. Obviously, I still do now, but it's a little bit different now. Now I'm more on the back end, a little bit of training here and there. But before it was like 10-hour days of straight being in the gym, and then I'm going to watch my players' games. So I'm kind of really in the field, really understanding the business side of things, how to market myself by networking, like in person and things like that. I would say that's the biggest difference of someone who is just doing this as a side hustle, or is just training for fun, and someone who wants to turn this into an actual business.
I love it. Yeah, I think you demonstrate there's a time and a place to be boots on the ground, grinding, but you also have to have that longer term vision and the systems and that outlook so that you can build towards something that can continue with you removed a little bit more.
Absolutely, because I mean, obviously you could just work all day long, but at the end of the day, this isn't really a career that kind of like provides like a 401k and medical and health benefits. It's kind of just like you're on your own and you got to figure it out. So I come from a very business minded family, so they kind of instilled that to me very very young. And just like my dad always tells me, like whatever you're good at, just get so good at and stick to what you know. So he taught me that at a very young age. So I mean, sticking to what I know, and that's
Hey, it's
run
working out.
a business. Yeah, how to run a business and apply basketball to it. So
It is working out. And on top of that, the nature of this business is it's physically demanding. And you
yes,
might not be on the court playing defense. Eventually you can hire out or you do groups. So it might not be you moving like you're playing real basketball, but even just being in the gym, you're running for basketballs, you're grabbing a rebound. It's demanding on the body when you pack on 10-hour days, 6 days a week for a few years.
Yeah,
That isn't as
absolutely.
sustainable. And that's a lot of times what happens, and trainers do burn out. And so a huge motivation for me in this podcast is shedding light on the business side of things and how can we make this more sustainable for trainers so that actually more kids can benefit from high quality work. Because if, as trainers, we can get our time back and we don't have to worry about chasing payments or the business stuff, and that gets a little bit more efficient, we can spend more time becoming better trainers and deploying those pieces of advice on our staff. So ultimately it all trickles down to the kids get better faster. And at the end of the day, that's really at the center of it. And like you mentioned, with making that sixth man a starter, then a best player, that's some of the easiest marketing you can get.
Hey, I just want to take a quick break. My name is Russell. I'm one of the founders of CoachIQ. We put on this podcast here. Our goal is to interview top coaches and business owners in the youth sports space across the United States and give you guys insight on the ground floor. How are they running their business? What do they think about the current ecosystem? And what are their thoughts on where things are going? So we're super excited to bring this to you guys. If you don't know about us, we are an all-in-one sports management platform. We run a lot of the businesses that we have on the podcast. And we're fortunate enough now to work with about 1,000 sports coaches across the United States. And it's our goal to make your life as easy as possible in running the business itself. Website, scheduling, payment management, everything handled seamlessly on our platform. And really what separates us is we are built specifically for sports. We're not powering nail salons. We're not powering Pilates studios. Every second of the day, we focus on you. So if that's something you need where you're looking to get your time back or you're looking to actually grow your business, CoachIQ is really the only platform thinking about you every single day, interviewing and working with the top coaches in the industry specific to sports. So if that's something we can help you with, we would love to connect with you. You can visit our website, coachiq.com, schedule a free demo there. The demos are awesome. It's really less about selling and much more about just walking through what we've learned and providing value on what other coaches are doing. And if it's a match, it's a match. So absolute no-brainer. Go schedule a demo, totally worth the time. And thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for customers who are working with us. It allows us to do all this, make better product, and the main goal, help athletes all across the United States and the world get a phenomenal experience from you guys, the coaches.
And it's easy to do it, especially when they're at that like 5th to like 7th grade, where like maybe the only reason why they're not a starter is because they can't make a mid-range shot, or like they can't use their left hand. So, okay, let's get in the gym for like 3 to 5 sessions and let's work on what you need to work on. You're automatically so much better. Like the room for growth for that middle school age is so grand that like it's inevitable. They just need to they just need to play. They just need to hoop. They just need to play. They just need to train.
Absolutely. And I think you guys have a very unique space for that. So I want to get into the specifics of how you design sessions. And you talked about it earlier, but could you paint a very clear picture? You step into the gym. What do you see? How much space do you have? What are you working with as a trainer?
Okay, so I know every kid that walks into the gym. So I already know all their skill sets and what they need to work on. So in like 5 seconds, I'm like, okay, this kid like needs to work on this. This kid needs to work on that. Like this kid really needs this shot. He's a little too weak for that finish. Like so I'm already kind of orchestrating in my head, okay, this is the level of talent that's in the gym. So this is how I need to play it. So let's say there's like 6 to 10 kids. We have 3 hoops, but I like to just use 2. Especially if they're like 12 and up, I'll only use 2. If they're like 12 and below, sometimes I'll use 3. Kind of, they don't need to really get out in the 3-point line because we don't have a top of the key on one of the hoops. But I kind of go by like a mental rubric of what the kids need to work on. So first thing as we do is we always start off with like 7 to 8 minutes of ball handling. And kind of in that 7 to 8 minutes of ball handling is when I'm really focused on what I'm going to teach the class. Like I wing everything. I'll be honest. I am not a good planner. I'm not a writer. I don't write down my drills. Even when pros come in the gym, Like we worked out with Jimmy Butler all last summer. I mean, I come in the gym and I'm just like, that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, cool, I'm gonna do it. So with the kids' classes, can they make left, right hand layups absolutely consistently? After that, now we're going reverse layups. All right, after the reverse layup, let's teach them a pickup. Maybe just for the young kids, maybe just a tuck. Maybe for the older kids, go high, go low, pass fake, get a little bit more complicated. Now, with the older kids, the really only thing that I change is that I apply a little bit more defense or like a help side aspect. So let's say they make 1 to 2 moves at the top of the key or at the free throw line or maybe at the wing. When they finish, they got to either like shield with the hand, and for the finish, they got to get into a contact finish. They got to spin, euro, things like that. With the younger kids, it's more about get them conditioned, get them to compete, keep it fun. So as many layups as you can make in 2 minutes, and we got the whole gym yelling of "You won, two." You know what I mean? Of course, once they get to like 6 and 7, that whole thing. Gosh, it's so annoying, but you gotta love it. So, they're all screaming, and then once I make them, obviously the losing team does a little bit of push-ups. Like all the kids are just yelling at the other ones, like counting their push-ups and keeping it fun, keeping it engaged, getting them tired because a lot of parents like to see that their kid are walking out of those sessions like that was a good workout, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it is a workout, it is a sport, you got to keep it fun. So that's the difference between like working with the younger kids and working with the older kids, is keep it a workout for the younger kids and keep it a little bit more detail oriented for the older kids, making sure that we're actually working on the skill. Like I'll have a sophomore in high school and be like, hey, what does your coach want for you this year? He's like, well, he says that I need to get better at shooting. So I really imply like a little bit more shooting into that session just because one kid said that. Yeah, it's a little bit difficult sometimes to cater one session to every kid, but at the end of the day, you're never going to get worse getting up more shots or getting up more fun finishes or just competing. Now, when I have like a 10 to 12 kids is when it gets a little bit even more fun because I get to compete right away. So I've learned to do a lot of like partner drills and like
Hmm.
situational training. So I don't you guys have worked with by any means basketball, Coleman
Yeah, yeah,
Ayers before, and I
absolutely.
love his stuff. Like he does a lot of situational training. So I'll start them off with partners, especially if it's like 10 to 12. All right, everyone get in a partner. We're starting off defense on your hip. You got one dribble bump into a finish. Now we got everybody moving at the same time because we have two groups of 6 and 4, and we have full circuit. All right, cool. Now we're gonna bump. Once the defender cuts him off, now we're gonna euro step. Defense tries their best to obviously steal the euro,
Yep.
so that the offensive player has to either go high, low, or tuck the euro. They can't just have the defense swipe it. So do a lot of situational training when we have the older kids and a majority of them, just because we hate lines. Like
Yeah,
we
yeah.
hate it when the kids are on lines because they start like throwing the ball at each other. They just start like messing around. They start dozing off. They lose motivation. So we get these kids going, and their hour really feels like, to us, it feels like 20 minutes just because it's going by so fast. You know what
Right.
I mean? To them, they're super tired. So
Right.
it's beneficial for everyone.
Yeah, you're maxing out your resources and
Yeah,
you're seeing what you
especially
have
because
there and then design from there.
our scheduling is not like 3 to 4, then 4:30 to 5:30. It's 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 6 to 7. Like it's minute increments to where we get these kids out the gym and we have a whole new set coming back in. So we can't really waste any time. It's not like
Yeah.
we're not ending our session at like 5:57. We're ending it at 6 o'clock, and we have the next group coming in at 6 o'clock.
Right. You look on your website and it is impressive how much you guys fit into time blocks.
Yes.
And I know from operating that requires a lot of back end organization. So I want to shift a little bit more to the business side of things. What tools are you guys using to enable that organization, the different age groups, skills, and you're running all week? So how are you making sure that all flows nicely?
Honestly, Coach IQ is probably the greatest app that I've personally used as far as organization. I feel like Coach IQ just does a really good job keeping things organized. I love how we like to know all of our players. So we take a picture of everybody, and thankfully, Coach IQ has that option to upload the picture, see the people's profile, see the kids' profile. Having an app that integrates into Coach IQ, because we have the Hoop House app on iPhone and Android, is the greatest lifesaver. Because how we used to run our system, we had a Google spreadsheet. I kid you not, we had a Google spreadsheet, and when we had a kid, say the kid's name is Daniel, we go, all right, Daniel, you want to come twice a week? Do you want to come Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays? When do you want to come? All right, Mondays, Wednesdays. All right, cool. You're going to come Mondays and Wednesdays. So that gives you 8 sessions a month. It's 180 for twice a week, but you have to come Mondays and Wednesdays. You can't call and reschedule. There's no rescheduling. You have to come Mondays and Wednesdays. So imagine just like having to write down all these kids manually, and we're like highlighting them if they're not going to come to the session. We're like bolding their names. Oh my
You said
gosh.
you're dealing with 200 kids a week. At
Yes.
that
So
scale,
it
that's
was
pure
so
chaos.
terrible. Like, we would have to put like bullet points on some kids of the names, like highlight them in red if they weren't showing up, like highlight them in like green if their payment went through. Like, it was all bad. It was just so hard to manage a full like Google spreadsheet, and then we try to build our own software where the payment processing just didn't align with how we wanted it. We wanted to build like an all-in-one, so it was going to be a full schedule, basically a Coach IQ and a Stripe all in one. Didn't work out. Then Brandon obviously told us about Coach IQ. We jumped right in, and we were able to honestly switch our whole system from sessions to credits. So we are now credit based, where we give you credits instead of like sessions. Like, so if you want to come like twice a week, you don't tell us what days you're coming. You just book it, and you come 9 times a month. And every credit is kind of like a session, kind of like a Pilates studio, how they do it. So we do that model, and we figured out that we were able to actually make more with less, just maximizing. And we've had so many players just come back to the hoop house because of our new schedule, because it was more flexible, because they were able to come on their own time. And honestly, Coach IQ does a great job reaching out to the players beforehand, and also it gives the parents an option to kind of text us without texting us. So we don't like to give our phone number out. Like, I have a text now app that I kind of do things on, but they're able to text in the app, and we can reach back out in the app. I think that is an amazing tool that Coach IQ has helped us with, that we are
Absolutely.
able to obviously grow.
I think you touched on a lot of the inefficiencies in how many trainers operate. Like, they might have a spreadsheet for client management. They might be texting from their personal phone all their different clients and scheduling via text or Instagram DM or a bunch of different options depending on the parent or the player you're dealing with. Sometimes you are dealing with the parent, sometimes you're dealing with the player directly, chasing payments from Venmo, Cash App, Zelle. Like, there are a million different things that can really complicate things. And once you get to a certain scale, you become more of a secretary than a basketball player. And it's a brutal existence if you want to make it a full-time thing. So I think you nicely showcased how Coach IQ and my own experience is very similar, can help get your time back and actually improve the experience for your players, where they're able to be in the gym with you more, which is ultimately what is going to help your business the most. Is they're going to get better faster. I think that's great. Now, you're still a young trainer, but you've learned so many things in your process, and I think you've gotten to a point that many trainers aspire to get to. If you could reflect back on your journey and give a piece of advice to a young trainer who wants to eventually own their own facility and do this full time, what would that advice be?
don't go for the pros. If you want to be on an NBA staff, that's a little bit different. You need to be the greatest connector ever. You need to go to a whole lot of just try to put yourself in the right rooms. But ultimately, your Instagram is your resume. So make sure that you're always kind of at least somewhat active. You don't need to be the most content guru. I'm not. I'm personally not. I wish I was to capitalize on the business. But your Instagram is your resume. So make sure that you act professional, and then treat it like a real business. Do not treat it like a side hustle. Clock into work, clock out. Yeah, I would say honestly, just don't go for the pros. Don't look at all these social media trainers where they're working with some of these guys because honestly, I mean, we have 3 facilities. We have 9 staff members, and we're able to take care of all of that. And that's without a single professional basketball player. Yes, we've worked with a handful amount of them, but ultimately, the bread and butter cannot be the pros unless obviously you are Drew Hanlon, DJ Sackman. But even DJ Sackman has like an app. So just work your
Yeah.
way up, train all these kids, get little Billy and get all little Billy's friends, and start from there. I mean, it's very rewarding. Also, you got to love it. I'm big on finding your why. So just find your why and the reason why you're doing it. If you're doing it for the money, then I don't think that you're going to be doing it out of pure heart and joy when you actually see a player get better. If you are doing it because you love the game, then do it the right way. It'll pay respect back to you. So
It's great advice.
yeah.
I think the dream and the social media, and you see trainers working with pros, that becomes a lot easier once you've built a foundation where you're not reliant upon those pros.
Absolutely.
And I've talked to quite a few trainers now, guys that have built out their in-person business, work with pros, some that work with pros solely.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a few that have been able to be successful and run a really, really nice business
Mm-hmm.
at the pro level. The majority of people I talk to tend to have a better lifestyle when about 90% of their income is coming from youth in high school.
Yep.
And then that 10% is the additional from these pros.
Yeah.
And I think that's a breakdown that not a lot of people think about, but because I've had the access to so many coaches coming on the podcast, talking to them, getting into the details of the business, that's about the split that I've seen that makes the most sense.
I believe it. The pros require more work. They want the prime time. They want the 4:30 p.m.s, and they might not show up till 6. Now you just wasted an hour and a half of your life. So absolutely, I completely agree. They don't want to pay. So yeah.
Yeah. Make sure, yeah, you got to make sure that you're with guys you trust and that have good values. I think in my own journey, I've been super lucky to work with really high level guys and high level
Yeah, absolutely.
people at that pro level. So there are success stories
Yeah,
certainly, but I've
absolutely.
heard more horror stories than not.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny because I'm always saying oh, don't work with pros, don't work with pros, but actually the 4 or 5 pros that I have worked with came from one guy that's referred me, but he's like a diamond in the rough. So I've personally not had too many bad encounters to make me be like, oh yeah, I'm never doing this again. It's more about actually the college. Some Division 1 college kids are even worse just because now the NIL factor, they are too cool to be in school. You know what I mean? Realistically, that they're making great money, so they should invest in their future. But I've heard a fair share and dealt with people who have dealt with a fair share of bad pro stories, including, I mean, I've had maybe 1 or 2, and Ryan's had a couple as well. But with the high level players, it's just not as rewarding, for sure. Good for maybe the
Absolutely.
resume built up, but not really.
Absolutely. Especially you've got the leverage of you already have a fully functioning business. You don't
Yeah.
require a pro to have some validity or income. Now, I'm going to end with one question. You've worked with pros. You said Jimmy Butler was a guy. I know you've worked with a lot of high level players, but you've also worked with high level middle school and high school players. Are there any things that you see as differences between those two groups and maybe some commonalities between the two?
I think ultimately, if a kid like loves basketball, like lives, dreams, and like eats basketball, like that's sometimes I'll get a kid and I'll be like, oh wow, like I think he can really do something with the sport because he loves it like a pro does. Because if you're a pro, you gotta love basketball like a different type of way because you're out in like a random country for 10 months eating food you're not familiar with, away from family. Like you gotta love the sport to be able to do that, especially after college when you probably have a degree, so you could just go home and get your degree or get whatever job that you want, you know? So if you're in a random country doing what you love and you have this kid who literally just like trains all day and just hoops at 24, I would say like the love of basketball is pretty common, but I would say just like not too much anymore. Before, like I had a lot of people who like, or even when I was growing up playing, like there was just a lot of like people who just love to play. Like there wasn't this like personal trainer that everybody has, and I feel like that's kind of also like hurt the development because a lot of people have all these skills, but that when they get into a game they don't have the IQ for it, or they don't have like the subconscious like playmaking ability, and I feel like that comes with obviously playing more. So I think players just need to hoop more, honestly. I feel like the gap from a pro and a high school kid is really big now versus maybe before. You can maybe get a high school kid that could maybe play pro, but now I feel like that gap has kind of increased just because we don't have a lot of like hoopers anymore. It's more about just skills. When no, you gotta play, like you gotta really play.
Right.
But I would say the love of the game is one similarity. I feel like some of these kids really love basketball and they just want to play like 5 6 hours a day, and that kind of like is a commonality between like an actual pro.
Love it. Yeah, that love is certainly true, and I think that's why most people start playing basketball, and the ones that stick through the hard times are the ones that typically maybe have that why in basketball, like you talked about
Yeah,
earlier. Well, Justin, I appreciate you coming on and giving us the wisdom from things about the tactical, the technical, the business side of things. I think we covered a lot. What you're doing out in California is awesome. If there's a parent out there that wants to get in contact with you about training or another coach, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
email info at hoophousesandiego.com is our email. You can email us, DM us on the Hoop House page. But yeah, I mean, that's the best way to contact us. We work with all players from 6 to 17 to pros to young, even younger with privates, all types of kids, co-ed, 7 days a week. We're open. Only days we're not open is on Christmas Day and Easter Day. But, but yeah, I mean, we're the best of the best. I mean, not a lot of other trainers that it's actually just like me and Ryan basically. We have a partner for the Marietta gym, but have built 3 facilities and probably able to be building more in the future. So yeah.
I love it. And that's actually a sneaky tip that you just gave. When someone asks you how to contact you, email is definitely the highest success rate because a lot of people aren't willing to go and write an email, but if you do write it, you know it's a serious inquiry. So
Yeah,
just even
absolutely.
dropping tips at the very end. So thank you so much, Justin, and
Yeah,
we'll definitely
absolutely. I
have to
would
have
love
you on
to
again.
be a part of this again and help out Coach IQ just like how they helped us out. Thank you. Really appreciate it and hope to stay in contact.
Absolutely. All right, until next time.